what I've found is as much as we can agree with the concept of, hey, I should do what I say I'm going to do, like pretty basic. Like when I tell someone I'm going to do something, I should do it. And when I tell myself I should do something, I should do it. On the surface, it's like, well, yeah, no duh. But the truth is, if you get deep enough into the work, you realize how frequently you are making promises, especially to yourself, that you do not keep. Hey, I'm going to start this diet. Okay, I kind of let it slip. Hey, I should do this thing for my business that I know will move it forward. Kind of let it slip. Hey, I should give up this habit I know doesn't really serve me. Drinking, alcohol, weed, drugs, TV, scrolling on your phone, insert whatever thing you know that deep down does not serve you. Hey, I should stop that, or at least take a month off of it. I can't seem to do it. I can't even take a month off or do the thing that I want to do for a month straight. Who's in charge in there if it's not you? Interesting question. Who's in charge in there if it's not you? And I went deeper with my clients this morning on that topic because it's not a topic you solve and then all of a sudden it's done. It's a thing that you participate in regularly and get better at. It's like fitness. It's like just because you're in really good shape doesn't mean you couldn't have a coach and get in even better shape. And if you don't have a coach and don't work out anymore, you will start getting in worse shape. There's only two directions of travel: growing or dying, green and growing or ripe and rotting. There are only two options. And so frequently, we think we're done. We think we've made it. The game does not work like that. So I went deep on a core concept with the guys. And a lot of the work I do with my guys is going deeper into core concepts instead of filling their mind with a bunch of noise, these sexy new things. It's like everybody wants something new. Nobody wants to do what's necessary. And when we get into a place where it's like, hey, I don't want to just do new stuff for the sake of doing new stuff. And it's not to say there's not new stuff to do sometimes. It's just that the way you get world class is not by trying 50 new things every month. It's by getting really good at the fundamentals in your craft. And word as law, I keep my word with myself and others. I tell the truth is a meta fundamental. It applies to everything in your life. If you do not have that working, you do not have a working life, period. So that's what my call was about.
What inspired this deeper conversation into this thing? Was there a question? Was there feedback or a situation that occurred for you to go deeper into this?
Yeah. So what inspired me to go deeper on this topic with my clients is we've been doing I have a very specific reading that I've been having them do on this topic. And I one of the many things that we do in the program is we have these different readings, and they're usually a page or two or three, take you like 10 minutes to read. And the point is not to learn something new. Again, you know this. The point is to have it stimulate the fact that you're not living it. And you hear it at a different, when you hear it, when you hear the same thing over again, time and time again, if you are changing, it will not be the same text. You evolve and you see it differently, even though it's the same words. And that's actually one of the biggest things I learned in Bob Proctor's community. In my opinion, he was one of the best in the world at this practice. Really simple practice. He called it studying. But there's a big difference between learning something, the way most people define it. Oh, I read it now and I agreed with it. And now I feel like my dopamine's up. So I got a little dopamine snack and I pat myself on the back because I learned something today. It's like, no, you learned it when you start applying it regularly and it exudes out of your being. You didn't learn it because you agreed with it. You just agreed with it. Agreeing is a good start to learning something. But part of how you change your paradigm and actually live it, there's actually two ways to change a paradigm. One is through emotional impact, and the other is through repetition. And most people don't understand how to use either in their life. Bob Proctor, in my opinion, was the best maybe of all time of using the concept of repetition. That's what Think and Grow Rich is about. Auto-suggestion, the keystone of the arch to the whole philosophy in Think and Grow Rich. Auto-suggestion is basically repeating stuff to yourself, but there's a specific way to do it. You can't just repeat stuff and, oh, I'm so happy, oh, I'm going to be rich. It's like, no, there's a way of doing it. But again, until you get into the repetition of even starting there and then get into a community that actually knows what they're doing, that supports you to be consistent in it, then good luck going to enough depth that you can actually apply the secret in Think and Grow Rich. But this is where people get stuck, is they just want to agree with it. And, oh, I'm done my work. It's like, I'm sorry, but life is something you participate with consistency in if you want any sort of results. And people know this in the areas that their life is working. If you look back and look at the area your life is working, you've been consistent. You got consistent with the fundamentals. That's why it's working. Whatever you are doing that is working, I promise you, if you look at it from that lens, you will see consistency with the fundamentals. And these things I'm talking about, and a lot of what I invite my guys into, is consistency in meta fundamentals. How do I even live life properly? Or more effectively is probably better language around it. So we're using a practice called study, reading that your word is law reading, to the point where I'm seeing it again and again and like, oh shit, I'm actually not living it. Because that's the first step in changing your word into being law, is you need to admit that you're not doing it. Most people don't want to admit it. They just want to say, yeah, I'm doing everything right. I'm great. I'm like 8 or 9 out of 10. Sure, I could be a little better. It's like, no, not until you are very teachable and you're willing to be humble will you change. And that's not an 8 or 9 out of 10. That's at a 1 out of 10. 1 out of 10, that's kind of negative, Parker. Yeah, very different than traditional personal development. It says, I'm so great. Everything's great. It's all great. No, not everything's great. Now, that doesn't mean to be depressed about it. It just means being true about the fact that you have a big gap between where you are and where you want to go. And the bigger your vision, the bigger the gap. If you think everything's great, if you think things are 8 or 9 out of 10, it means you have no vision. You've pretty much caught up to it. And as King Solomon said, without a vision, the people will perish. If you do not have a vision, your life will not work. If you have a big vision and you're saying you're at 9 out of 10, but you don't have the vision, then you're just lying to yourself. So what would it look like to say, no, I'm not at 9 out of 10. I'm at 1 out of 10. But that's exciting. That's not something I'm depressed about. I'm like, holy crap. My life is so good and it's only at 1 out of 10. What'll happen when I get to 2 out of 10? That's a double. That's crazy. When I'm at 5 out of 10, I'm going to blow my own mind with how good it is. That's a good attitude, but that requires self-honesty, and it's uncomfortable to be honest with yourself. And in fact, I think it's actually impossible if you're trying to do it in isolation. You need community and mentorship to do it. And if you don't start there of like, what is my vision? Where am I at as it pertains to that? Oh, I'm only at 1 out of 10. Time to get going. And this is where I'm actually not being honest with myself. This is where I'm actually not keeping my word as law. Hard to create the life you want. In my estimation, it's impossible.